I'd like now to invite Genevieve's Opa up forward to offer some of his reflections.
Babcha and Opa are names that are unique. We wanted something that would be personal, so we had a little contest. What could we do for names that would be memorable to the grandchild and unique to us? And so Paula went through her family history and says, yeah, there's grandmas and there's this and that and the other thing, but in Polish history, Babcia turns out is grandmother, and oh, that lays in quite nicely with her 100% Polish background. And I'm, by the way, Polish by marriage, so I have the Polish national flag right beside the American flag at our house whenever the sun is nice, and whenever I get help putting flags out, and there's a story to go with that too. Now, Opa, I was struggling a bit because I have mixed polyglot North European background, so you can point to any kind of tribes from Europe and come with something if you go deep enough, but you try to pronounce that and think of it in terms of a small child. And then my treasured, almost a doppelganger son-in-law, who could be easily a member of my own extended family, and I was terribly flattered when some of our good family friends confused his brother with me, who was a man much younger. I was flattered. He probably wasn't as much, but I really do appreciate that. Thank you for thinking me taking all those years off and putting that hair back on my head. So he said, and because he knew I had Dutch and German background, that Opa is something that I might consider. I said, oh, that's so much better than some of these German combinations with all the and whatever you do with it. So Opa, and I said, oh boy, does that sound something a little child could do? And we are quite fond of Greek flaming cheese with a little bit of liquor and a little flame, and oh, hot cheese party, good time. I think that's going to be me. I really hope so. And so I have tried to live up to a good time with Genevieve, and with that, so we introduced those names, and as it turns out, a strong personal brand identity as mine did get learned first by Genevieve over Babcia, and Babcia is a sweet name and an even sweeter grandmother. However, we never did quite get it all together. I think we've got like 70% of it, but we knew who she was talking to and about when she was requesting something from Grandma. Earliest memories of Genevieve. Oh, I remember when she was very small at the hospital, and we had flowers and balloons, and I said, when she was given to me to pass it, and that sounds about right, 4 or 5 pound sack of sugar, kind of warm, nice, cuddly, doesn't talk much yet. And then we can fast forward, where she was starting to tease, and I had a flashback to my own daughter, Rachel. And Rachel, I had an office job, always came in with pens, and she'd invariably, with a hug at greeting, would take pens out and start to tease on them. And I had to quit that when she got some nice blue ink into her gums and mouth, and I think I substituted carrots or something so that I had a treat for her, but she didn't have to, be tongue washed. So it turns out when Genevieve started the same thing, putting the pens in my pocket, I quickly went to the vegetable department, and from there on, while teething, always made a point of, instead of pens, having in my pocket either clean celery sticks, and because I found out she was adventuresome with vegetables, she liked raw onions, much to her mother's and dad's delight. I had some green onions mixed in there with the long green stems, and one nice thing about that, you can find your baby in the dark pretty easy, and you know which one is yours while changing without even looking, because there's telltale signs of what we've been eating. There's a segue story about that one. In more recent times, she learned the delight of a cone that you might have of ice cream if you're old enough. So we went to some places and we had them separate out the ice cream into the plastic scoop and the cone separately so she could teeth on the cone. Quite happy about that. And then of course, there was the time when I was traveling with her alone and she was introduced to ice cream, and I ruined it for their easy treats from then on. And again, getting back to what have we been eating? We got our own selection of cones, which have some distinctive bright colors in them. Purple, you named these dark colors. And my son-in-law asked me, what have you been feeding my child? He's been eating crayons? And I'm like, we have these delightful cones that she's been eating lately. Just so you know, it's nothing bad. It's just, distinctive colors. So we all think that that's okay. The last week with Genevieve, I was drafted, by the way. One reason I'm speaking is because COVID came to us, and as many of you have worked at home with offices with the youngest set with you, trying to make work life happen and home life, it's quite the challenge. And they knew that Genevieve and I did have some good times together prior to that, and they asked if I might step up from randomly coming in maybe 3 days a week to going full time, 8 to 5, so that they could actually get some good work days in. And I thought, you know what? Why don't you price around all the alternatives and come back to me with an offer? Because I think I could make something happen. And it probably wouldn't have mattered what they had offered me, but being an old salesman, I thought I'd put it into their book and let them think about it and come up with something that would be a little generous but not too stingy. And it was just, I'd have probably done it, well, I won't say for free because that would just ruin my next negotiation position. But I was very delighted with the combination arrangement of being to be there at 8 in the morning. And I was very delighted to go home at 5. But they were long days, but they were delightful days. We had a whole schedule laid out, and there was maybe a dozen things to do every day, and we were religious about having maybe 4 of them. And we were always on task for snack time number 1, lunch, snack time number 2, and nap time. And you know what? I made sure that nap time always got in there because that was my nap time also. So things that we delighted at together and uniquely. Flags was a line of business I had before the Patriots Day came in. I was in wholesale distribution, and I had a surprise call from maybe almost 200 Oscar stores individually and as our groups looking for flags. And so I did that, and I'm very familiar with flags. American flags, all the ways, shapes, and form, as well as seasonal flags. Thus, we got Polish flags and Irish flags, and you name it. But our child Genevieve saw that we had at our farm place up north these large American flags, and she just kind of delighted the look of them flapping in the wind a little bit. And so she's very young. She doesn't walk. She doesn't talk. But I was in charge of her when nobody else was, and hey, we'll do things with our grandchild. So I introduced her to the flag, and we looked at it, and I said, would you like to help me take this and put it up on our wall where we've got a mounting back? And she's like, it's kind of like she admires the flag. So what I do is, in me holding her, and so her arms can hold the staff. her hands, both of them, fit quite admirably onto the staff of the American flag. And of course, I got to balance her and the flag in the wake of the flag in a slightly moving breeze. And so we did a parade, a handsome parade around from the garage, side of the house, all the way back to the porch. And we mounted it up in there. And I could not mount the flag in the front or back of our house whenever they were visiting without her participating. And that was a special way to do it, because she had to have her hands on that flagpole to mount it properly and have paid due respect. And I heard about from Genevieve and Rachel that they tried doing the flag ceremony without me present and without this knowledge in hand. And apparently she scolded them and yowled and tried to redirect them to doing it the proper way. And so I told them the secrets of our success in the child flag ceremony, and they said, oh. So that's why she was so discontent with their approach. Very much, I didn't know that I was lonely in doing my chores throughout the field. I have many trees to plant and gardens to plant and harvest to do, and Genevieve is a perfect second wind to my, and an answer to, does anyone want to go with me to water some trees for the next 2 hours in a hot, sunny afternoon? It's like she'd my only volunteer, and she stuck through it throughout, and it was just a delight for her to share that time with. I could go on, but we had some marvelous times. I just treasure them and will forever. And I feel justified in certain things we had retained from my own children's being young. We have a very nice house and yard in Warrenville, where we live, and up, of course, at the farm on Wisconsin line. And we have made a point in having a almost indestructible play yard and swing set and station, which has been taken to great use. Almost 30 years after we constructed it, you gotta use good timbers. We rebuilt the steps, of course, and put in new swings. So she was an avid participant in the sports of swinging and using that backyard. And the same with the front yard. We had sand pile that my son stocked when he was her age, and he's an old man now. So there's treasures there that he buried, and there's river rocks that he planted there, and she delighted in finding these things, for the last really a year and a half or so, when we felt it was safe enough for her to go in there without, possibly eating too much sand or perhaps the wrong things. So I'd like to thank you all for being here and participating in one of the last and least expected events and ceremonies in Genevieve's life. And thank you for being here for us.